boutique, family-run wineries and well-known brands. If you love full-bodied reds, don't miss out on Mazzi Campo Fiorin. Now only €13.95. Save €6. Pop into your local O'Brien's or shop online at o'brienswine.ie. Please enjoy alcohol sensibly.
Look, we need to have a chat, neighbour to neighbour. This is for laughing at how we say 33. And you can't even say Siobhan. For ruining words like banter. For it's coming home. For chain pubs and the state of the pints you serve. And for not caring as much about Ireland versus England as we do. But every year we get one chance. Our horses winning big on your turf. This March, Cheltenham's coming home.
Paddy Power, proud supporters of the Irish Cheltenham Takeover. Over 18s, please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
Trust Furco Windows and Doors to transform your home. Visit furco.ie.
You ain't shit! I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
Well, fans can be the harshest critics, you know.
And they often are.
A wife is often the harshest critic of her husband.
I thought I was invincible. That's what you're trained to believe as a sports person.
There was 4 million people in Ireland who knew much more about managing football teams than I did. When it comes to music, I can spoof with the best.
Your sporting career is the best time you'll have, and you know you have to hang on to it for as long as you like, because everything else is pretty crappy.
And this is not lies. Stephen Rothschild has never spoken to Jim McGuinness in his life.
You're very welcome along to the Saturday panel on Off the Ball, and this panel is made up of just one special guest because there's a lot to talk about. 3 days before the start of the 2020 Cheltenham Festival, we're going to chat about life, loss, characters and racing with Wexford's Conor O'Dwyer. Conor, thanks for coming in today.
John, not at all. Thanks a million for having me.
Cheltenham Festival, you're kind of symbolic with it because you've ridden the winner of the Gold Cup and the Champion Hurdle twice, Hardy Eustace twice, and then Imperial Call and War of Attrition. My first visit to Cheltenham was 2002. I've never missed one since. I probably go there until I die, Conor. I know you're going over in a few days' time. Can you remember your first ever excursion or trip to Cheltenham as a jockey?
Wow, just about.
Yeah.
It's a good while ago now. 1989 or 1990, I think. A horse, I think, called Yale for man Jeff Hubbard in England. Ferdy Murphy, who's since passed away, trained him, and I think he ran the Arkle Chase, as I said, in 89 or 90. That was the first time we visited it.
Describe Cheltenham for anybody who's never been.
It's a hard one to describe for somebody that hasn't been there. You really need to be there to appreciate, first of all, what it is, the atmosphere, the build-up, to be there for the first race, the first day. As I said, the atmosphere is just absolutely electric. People, that's their weekly pilgrimage every year. They save their, day in, day out to get there every year. And it's just an absolutely fantastic place to be.
Yeah, I just think it's this amphitheatre. I love the way the stands are constructed, the hill, the finish, the roar that goes up, as you said, for the Supreme Novices Hurdle. And also, I think the Irish-English thing has been a huge thing. And I was just doing stats there, Conor. Between 1987 and 1991, there was 8 Irish winners from 109 horses. Over the last 4 years, there have been 65 from 112. Cheltenham has completely changed. And not only have we become, the underdog in the 80s and that in the 70s, we're now the leading force. And how has it changed? Is it the economy? Is it that we kept the horses here? Because there's been a huge sea change. We don't really see the Donnollies anymore. We don't really see the those kind of horses like Doran's Pride and Imperial Call. It's now much more of a business.
It is, as you said, both the economy and the owners, the likes of Jigginstown, Rich Ritchie, JP. Now, JP's always been there, but again, he has more horses, and everybody, those bigger owners, really, that's where they want to be. That's where they buy their horses to hopefully end up in Cheltenham. And as you said, the economy has changed, but we've definitely been able to keep our better horses in the last sort of, 15 to 20 years, rather than years ago all the good horses were sold to England, and that's definitely made the difference.
Now, the horse that put you on the map was in 1996, Conor, Imperial Call. Let's have a listen.
It's Imperial Call in the lead as they come down towards the final fence, the 22nd and final fence. Imperial Call for Ireland.
put a shiver down your spine, Conor, when you listen to that.
It certainly does. First winner there. An amazing day. Do you know, when from walking in from the into the winners' enclosure was just scenes I've never ever seen or witnessed. You know, it was just amazing. Even getting down off him, I was, you know, really conscious of my saddle, my leg cloth. It was just absolute mayhem, but it was amazing.
Why is the Gold Cup the blue ribbon? Why is it the most prestigious race?
I suppose, you know, chasing is the be end and all of national hunt racing. It's the carry level weights. So really, at the end of the day, the best horse wins, and he's the champion of the staying chasers.
And he was a horse trained in Cork near Macroom by Fergie Sutherland. He used to be in the British Army, went to the Korean War, lost his leg. How did you get to sit up on the Imperial Call?
An amazing man. Really, through Frank Berry, who was 10 times champion, and Frank knew Fergie, and Charlie Swan was actually riding Imperial Call at the time, and Charlie was claimed by Aidan O'Brien for Life of a Lord in the Hennessy Gold Cup in Leopardstown, and Frank put a word in for me with Fergie, and started from there, really. So again, just in the right place at the right time.
What type of horse was he?
He was, as a model of a horse, he probably wasn't what you'd buy at the sales. A short-backed horse. As I said, he wasn't your ideal type that you'd go off and buy, but he had a huge engine, he had a lot of pace, he jumped fantastic, and most of all, he'd a great attitude and a great will to win.
When I was watching the race last night, you kept him wide and you gave him a lot of daylight, and you always were travelling well.
Yeah, going out, Fergie said to me, he didn't give me any instructions, he just said to me, he's a novice. He said, treat him like one. So when we got to the start, plenty of runners, just decided to give him a good look at his fences, and I'd rather be in a good rhythm, giving away a little bit of ground on the outside than getting stopped down the inside. He hadn't the experience he wasn't battle hardy over fences to do that. And Cheltenham is a funny track. It doesn't ride the same as it looks on television. It looks a good big galloping track type of track on TV. But there, you're on the turn a good bit. Fences come up quick. It's a tricky place for a horse to go around. A lot of horses don't handle it.
When did you feel in the race, boy, we got a chance here?
I was always happy. As I said, he got into a super rhythm. He jumped fantastic. Halfway down the back, he was really, really travelling well. But look, like any race, until you're past the post, you don't think you're there. But travelling down the hill, he was very, very sweet. Richard Dunwoody was on one man, and horse that didn't really stay. And as I passed him, he said to me, you're stepping on the gas a bit quick. And I kind of knew then that he was in trouble.
Was that psychological warfare?
Definitely. So, as I said, once he said that, it actually gave me a bit of confidence, because I knew he was in trouble. So once, you know, I was travelling well and that kind of he was beat, he was definitely one of the ones that was, that we had to beat. And when he said that to me, I said, you know, we're going okay here. Is
it a blur when you jump that final fence and you're going up the Cheltenham Hill in the Gold Cup? Can you hear the crowds?
You can. You obviously still have to focus on getting up the hill, because after 3.25 miles, it's a long way home. He jumped the last well, but I knew, we weren't there yet, even though he stayed well. So, as I said, even though you do hear the crowd, you get a bit of a buzz, but you try and enjoy that moment of getting up the hill. But, as I said, you still have to focus on doing it.
So, Fergie, did he tell you any war stories about being in Korea?
He did on many occasions, I think, but we used to go down, and myself and my wife Audrey used to go down and visit himself and his wife Anne, and with many a good night down there.
That's the great thing about National Hunt, that a small trainer who just loved hunting and loved chasing gets a good horse. He got it from Tom Costello and Clare at the time, and has a dream. We're going to win the Gold Cup. Liston Farmers owned him in Cork, and then he goes the first time out at Cheltenham and he wins. And he had a lot of injury problems subsequently. I remember he came back and won the Punchestown Gold Cup, but he was a special chaser.
He was, and I think Fergie really got the best out of him. Fergie was an unbelievable horseman, and as you said, It was more the love of the actual horse than the actual way he trained him. He took care of him, as you said, he wasn't an easy horse to train. He wasn't always sound. But Fergie just, as I said, it was a project with him, and he really got the best out of him.
It was 10 years since Don Run had won the Gold Cup. Did you really feel the sense of patriotism and Irishness about winning the Gold Cup at Cheltenham that year?
Definitely. As I said, coming in, as I said, it was my first winner, so I'd never really experienced. I'd only watched and seen winners coming in and how they were hailed and whatever. But to come in that day on a Gold Cup winner, as I said, the crowds were it was just mayhem, is all I can explain or describe it as mayhem.
Where did the party start and end?
Started very shortly afterwards in the in the weigh room. At the time we were allowed to bring champagne in before racing ended. That was quickly stopped, I think, a few years after, but it started there, and there was many a party back down in Clonakilty for months after.
Then 10 years later, on Patrick's Day, you win the Gold Cup again on War of Attrition. Now, how did you associate yourself with War of Attrition? Because you rode him in the Supreme Novices Hurdle 2 years previously, and he was trained in Tipperary by Mas Morris.
Yeah, again, a little bit like Imperial Call. David Casey actually was War of Attrition's jockey, and I happened to win on him in Navan one day. David was in England, and we went to Naas then. David rode him again, and he ran pretty ordinary, and David decided to get off him in the Supreme Novices and ride a horse for Pat Fahey called Maria Rawlins. And I rode War of Attrition in the Supreme Novice, got beaten neck by Brevinka, and after that Mouse just thought we worked well together, and he left me on him. But as I said, again, right place, right time. He wasn't my ride, so two lucky times to get on a horse.
Mouse is Mouse Morris, Michael Morris, who used to ride at the Grand National. I remember when you've seen the old tapes, and when we were not training winners back in like the early 90s, he was training winners at Cheltenham. Murray Caravilla Howe, that really good chaser. How did he get the best tune out of War of Attrition?
Again, Mouse, a bit like Fergie, loves a good horse always, and loves Cheltenham. It's all he kind of works around at the start of every year. He really tries to pick out a couple to get to Cheltenham with. War of Attrition was I think it was a very easy horse to train. It was a lot easier to train than Imperial Call. It was a lot sounder. And we ran in the Arkle the year after the Supreme Novice, and we made a terrible mistake. He overjumped a fence early on in the race, and I kind of just sat up on him and minded him, and that's because I knew that's exactly what Mouse would want, because I knew he'd one day in mind, and he got him there safe and sound and worked out great.
Once again, in 2006, he kept the horse wide during the race.
Done the very same, really. Again, Mouse was a little bit like Fergie, didn't give you much instructions. His theory was, you're the jockey, that's what I'm paying you to do. He said, you've won a Gold Cup, so he said, I'll leave it to you. Again, a huge field, 24 runners, and probably, again, little novice-y, even though his jumping was fantastic, he hadn't probably a huge amount of runs under his belt. And I just thought, it worked once. And same type of horse, a bit of pace, jumped well, stayed well. I didn't see any reason to change the tactics.
This time you had Ruby Walsh and Hedge Hunter behind you.
Little different. A little different, all right. Again, travelled well down the hill. We bypassed the third last, and couldn't believe how well he was travelling. And when we turned in, I just thought, as I said, I'd no doubt about him staying the trip. And we squeezed on and put in two absolutely super jumps at the second last and last. I think once he threw the jump he did at the last, he had a lot still in the tank. And I was very confident there was nothing going to go away him then.
Was it sweeter to win the Gold Cup second time around?
Hard one, I suppose. I suppose the first time it probably passed me by a little bit.
Yeah.
I appreciated it more the second time, both because it was my second time there, but also because I was older. I was nearly 40 years of age, and horses like that don't come along at that stage of your career. So I took it all in probably a lot better. But in saying that, the Imperial Call being my first Cheltenham winner was very special.
Now, War of Attrition, owned by Michael O'Leary, and his first ever Cheltenham winner, Are you surprised that he became so dominant in the game after that?
No, I remember him saying after the Arkle chase when I rode War of Attrition and we made the mistake, and but I still came in and said, look, we've a fabulous horse, we'll be back next year and this, that, the other. And he said, well, there's only one thing to do. I said, what's that? He said, buy more. So from that day on, I knew he was definitely going to be a big force in the game.
What was he like to ride for?
Early days, absolutely super. He had very little input as regards to how you rode the horses. We knew he liked them ridden handy and out of trouble type of thing. But you were paid to ride him, Mouse was paid to train him. It was a far easier operation, and he was a very easy, straightforward man to ride for. Everything was black and white. There was no grey area. And then I suppose when the operation just got so much bigger, I don't know, things changed a little bit. He just got a lot more involved and a lot more say on how to do things, and it changed a good bit.
Has he been good for the game?
Absolutely. Absolutely. As we spoke earlier on about being able to keep horses here, and he's put a huge amount of money in over the years, and has enabled, as I said, a lot of trainers to train Cheltenham winners and jockeys to ride Cheltenham winners that they wouldn't have done without him.
So will his winding down of his involvement over the next few years hurt the sport here, do you think, Conor?
I don't think so. I think it's gotten to a place now that, without, I won't say without him, but there's still people buying the store horses that Michael was buying. Maybe not to, maybe the price is levelled out a bit, that sort of thing. But no, I don't think so. And I think it's probably a good thing for smaller trainers, because even for myself, it's easier for me to get owners into the game, because they don't see the dominance of the Gigginstown there anymore. Even though he still has a huge amount of runners, but if he says what happens is going to happen in the few years that they are going to get out, as I said, it'll be easier for smaller trainers to talk smaller owners in.
Does a smaller owner have a chance of acquiring a Gold Cup winner, or is it luck?
It is a lot of luck. He does, but it has gotten harder. Yeah. I think years ago you couldn't compete in the flat racing side of it, whereas now I think it's actually for the likes of myself, it's nearly easier to compete in the flat than it is over jumps. It's got, as you said, so dominant by Gigginstown, the Rich Richies, those type of owners. But again, it swings and roundabouts.
Because you're talking there, because you used to see retired when you rode Mr. Top Notch to win in your final race back in 2008. You've gone into the training game. How does it compare to being a jockey?
Absolutely chalk and cheese.
Right.
No comparison. For various different reasons. I suppose, first of all, you're running a business, which you weren't doing as a jockey.
How many do you employ?
We've 6 full-time and 2 part-time at the moment, and literally up till last week we were I'd say, I was riding out myself again, we couldn't get staff, so even for that reason alone, things are just so different to being a jockey. You rode your horse, you brought him back, you got down off him, and you moved on to the next one,
Is it more stressful being a trainer?
It is definitely. As I say, no matter how many horses you have, you're always trying to keep horses. You have injuries to contend with, you have owners to contend with. As I said, it is a stressful business, really, and you're dependent on an animal to get you your day's earnings. Like, it's not a machine. You can't just go in and switch it on or off. As I say, you have to have them right on the day. You have to keep owners happy. It's a tough one.
So tell us about some of the good animals you have at the moment.
At the moment, we've probably our stable star at the moment is a horse called John S, who I named after my late friend John Short, and he's worked out super. He's won 6 for us, 5 in Dundalk and 1 in Cork. So he's keeping the flag flying. He's won up in Dundalk the last couple of Friday nights. He's won 2 races, and looking forward to him for the summer as well, because he's been placed over hurdles last summer, so hopefully he'll win for us over jumps as well.
You have your young lad Charlie riding for you. Did he remember your Gold Cup wins?
No, he's watched them. He was only 3 when War of Attrition won, so he doesn't really remember that. So he's watched it a few times, and we knock a bit of fun out of it. And he's riding now. He's riding about a year. he's very light, and he claims 10, and he can claim nearly the 10 off the bottom weight at the moment. He's had about 90 rides and 2 winners, so things are going great for him, yeah.
Do the training community look out for each other? You know, you say it's stressful, sometimes it can be a little bit tricky. Does everybody look out for each other, or is it each to their own and the survival of the fittest?
Bit of everything, really. It is, yes, it's each to their own. You have to look after your own sort of corner. But in saying that, you know, if you don't have friends in the game, you know, it makes it a lot harder. So yeah, people do look out for one another, and because they're in the same boat, really. Especially, as I said, the smaller sort of people, you're fishing out of a small pond, really. So as I say, yeah, we do look out for one another.
What's your ambitions as a trainer? What races would you love to win?
Obviously, you know, you'd love to have a horse good enough to get to Cheltenham with a chance, you know, in any race, really. You always strive and look for the better horse. Again, I think it's probably, unless you've one of the very, very big owners buying a lot of horses, it's really gone into a numbers game. It's a game that has changed in the last 10 or 15 years since I started training.
Is it more ruthless now?
I probably wouldn't say ruthless, but it's just, as I said, you know, people buying a lot of ready-made horses in great numbers. And if you keep doing that, obviously you're going to come up with the better ones. So it is harder for the smaller man or the smaller trainer to get those, you know, top-class horses, or even keep them.
Riding that, is that something you still enjoy?
I do. I do it more for need than enjoyment. As I said, staff are hard to come by at times, and you know, when you're stuck that way, you have to get the breeches and boots back on and do a bit.
The Gold Cup next Friday. Album photo for Willie Mullins, Kenboy for Willie Mullins, Delta work for Gordon Elliott. We got a strong hand to make it back-to-back Irish wins. Yeah,
and I wouldn't leave presenting Percy out. I think Nicky Henderson's horse, Santini, is probably, you know, he's a tough one. It's a very open race. Like, if presenting Percy, I've a soft spot for. He's won there twice. And again, as I said earlier, it's a track that horses need to act around. And he has acted around it. And he's run a couple of solid races back this year. He could have pulled up after the second fence last year. He wasn't right. So I wouldn't rule him out.
So he'd be your pick, would he?
I think at 10-1, if I was to have a bet,
yes,
I'd have a few quid each way in him. I think Album Photo would be my pick. He's had a very good preparation. There's a lot of horses just probably haven't had the best preparations, and I think he's one that's had a lovely preparation, and he's been there, he's done it. I think if I had to say a winner, I think Album Photo, but as I said, if I was to have an each way bet,
presenting Percy.
Yeah.
Album Photo, do horses strengthen from 7 to 8? Does it work that way?
It depends on their earlier career, how hard an early career they've had. Back years, 40, 50 years ago, trainers, trader owners kept horses. They didn't run till they were 5 or 6, and they got a lot longer out of life. A 4-year-old career can be very hard on a horse. He's not fully matured. Big national horse needs time to strengthen up. So yeah, I definitely think between 7 and 8 can be their best years.
We're looking at no Ruby Walsh this year at Cheltenham. He was the man congratulating you after War of Attrition won the Gold Cup in 2006. But there's a chance now for new jockeys to come into the weigh room. Paul Townend, Sean O'Keefe, Paddy Kennedy. Who are you looking forward to watching having their first ride? Sadly, Jack Kennedy will be injured.
Yeah, poor Jack is out again. He's going through a rough time of it, and just at the wrong time. Again, as I spoke earlier on about the right place, the right time, having a bit of luck. If he, let's say, was on Delta work this year and he won the Gold Cup, it can change a career. So it's a lot of luck involved. The younger brigade coming through, again, Paul got his Gold Cup last year, and now he's first jockey to Willie Mullins. It's his time to shine and to make hay while the sun shines. And a couple of very good riders coming along. Darragh O'Keefe is a very good young national hunt jockey. Sean O'Keefe seems to be very good, and fella Gavin Bruder rode 2 winners in Leopardstown yesterday. The day before seems to be one of the up and coming lads as well.
OK, now Conor, well, we'll be back after the break to talk about the champion hurdle and Hardy Eustace. Remember him, and get Conor's take on some horses that might end up in the winner's enclosure this year that are not named, presenting Percy an album photo. Don't go away.
The Saturday panel on Off the Ball. The new place to buy Peugeot in South Dublin, Sandyford Motor Centre. More Irish drivers than ever are choosing Peugeot. Test drive the award-winning Peugeot 2008 and 3008 and the 7-seater Peugeot 5008 at Sandyford Motor Centre. The new home for Peugeot in South Dublin.
In this week's Sunday Times, we celebrate International Women's Day. Don't miss the brilliant and inspiring stories specially commissioned to mark this annual event. Pick up your copy of the Sunday Times this weekend or subscribe to our digital edition for €5 a month at thetimes.ie/join.
At Centra, we have great offers in store, like Centra Fresh Irish Chicken Fillets 1454 gram, only €4. Centra Selected Berries, like blueberries 175 gram, any 2 for €5. And Oyster Bay Sauvignon Blanc and Merlot, only €10 each. Centra, live every day. Enjoy, call sensibly.
At Electric Ireland, we offer everyone a discount rate that doesn't disappear after 1 year. So join over 1 million homes already with us, because we're brighter together. Join us at electricireland.ie. EAB €1,728. Average consumption, urban 24-hour discounted unit rate. Standing charge, PSO levy and carbon tax. Residential, dual fuel, direct debit and online billing. T's and C's apply. See electricireland.ie/EAB. Rates at 25th of December 2019, subject to change.
This March, secondary school students from all over Ireland will raise funds for charity and causes by making available Irish flag pins on Flag Day. I'm Henry Shefflin. I'm proud to have played hurling for Kilkenny, and I'm proud of our national flag, an emblem of peace. The GPO Museum is honoured to be the home of the Thomas F. Maher Foundation exhibition on the Irish flag. Together they support students to raise funds for charity and causes on Flag Day. 100% of money raised goes to schools, charities and causes of choice. Wear your flag pin, show your pride.
Proudly supported by News Talk.
It's kind of daunting.
You are not just you
anymore. No, I know, I totally agree now that we're us, you know, that it should be done. It's definitely something
It's definitely something to consider.
Well, actually, not consider, to do, because it's the right thing to do, to look after each other no matter what happens.
No one should spend time thinking about the worst things that can happen. That's why VHI has made setting up life insurance simple. Search VHI Life and get a quick quote, or call us on 1890 444444. VHI Healthcare DAC, trading as VHI Healthcare, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland and is tied to Zurich Life Assurance plc for VHI Lifetime Insurance.
Spend time at Portmarnock Hotel this spring, because whether you spend it walking along the Velvet Strand or dining as you watch the sunset in our award-winning Seaview restaurant or playing golf on our Championship Links course, you'll be spending less, with up to 20% off on our spring sale. Book now at portmarnock.com.
The secret to a great night's sleep takes only one endeavour. A visit to the Sleepwell event at Easy Living Interiors for our biggest savings ever. Luxury bedroom furniture and mattresses all reduced. And once you lie on our velvet bed frames, you're bound to be seduced. Get 2 free memory foam pillows worth €100 when you purchase a bed frame and mattress together. Limited time only. T's and C's apply. The Sleepwell event at Easy Living Interiors. Cork, Waterford, Navan, Naas, Sandyford, Drogheda and Wexford. Sale now on.
The purchase of sex is illegal in Ireland. That means that if you're caught, you'll be arrested and may have to appear in court and explain it to your wife and children. But maybe they'll believe you only wanted the girlfriend experience, or that you really thought the woman was there by choice, or that you think that prostitution is just a job like any other. But I wouldn't count on it. The vast majority of men don't buy sex and don't buy the excuses of those who do. Prostitution. We don't buy it. Go to wedon'tbuyit.eu to learn more.
Here at Dacia, we have some big news. The Dacia Duster is still Ireland's most affordable family SUV. At just €17,990, nobody comes near us on price, meaning a saving of over €8,000 against the others. That's €8,000 more to spend on the holiers. Guess who's skipping Wexford this year? Buy today, drive today at your local Dacia dealer. Price excludes delivery and related charges. Terms and conditions apply. See dacia.ie.
No one does Cheltenham quite like QuinBet. With a huge selection of markets on horse racing, plus all your favourite sports. We've got you covered right through the festival and beyond. And now with live casino and Irish lottery betting. You can find us on mobile, app and PC. QuinBet.com. T's and C's apply. Gamble responsibly. Visit gambleaware.ie.
On 106 to 108 FM, on newstalk.com, on smart speaker and on the Newstalk app. This is Newstalk.
Good afternoon, I'm Stephen Murphy. A number of Irish people are on board a cruise ship off the US coast where 21 people have tested positive for the coronavirus. The Grand Princess is currently moored off San Francisco and has been ordered to keep its distance from the shore. Donegal man Pat Kelly is a second officer on the ship. Stephen Maguire, editor of the Donegal Daily, says he's been contacting friends back home to reassure them he's in good health.
Pat has not been tested as of yet as we are speaking. The US government have flown hundreds, if not thousands, of coronavirus tests by helicopter onto the ship. There are 3,000 people on board the Grand Princess, and each and obviously every one of those will be tested.
Meanwhile, Pope Francis has cancelled all his immediate public appearances to avoid crowds gathering during the coronavirus outbreak in Italy. He'll live stream Sunday and Wednesday's prayers online from inside the Vatican without any general public participation. In other news, Gardaí investigating fake insurance claims through staged road crashes have searched a number of homes and businesses in County Roscommon. 2 people were arrested last week for a breach of work permits and immigration-related offences. One of them has since been deported and the other is due before the courts. Some of the businesses searched were also found to have broken employment laws and social protection rules. An Ethiopian draft report into the crash of a Boeing 737 MAX plane last March blames the company for bad design. An Irishman was among the 157 people killed. It was one of 2 fatal accidents involving the new aircraft type, which has left the plane grounded. Finally, the Taoiseach says he's really pleased Mick Mulvaney has been appointed as the new US Special Envoy to Northern Ireland. He has links to County Mayo and will take up the new role after being replaced as Donald Trump's acting Chief of Staff. NBC's Stephanie Rule says the two didn't always get on.
Mick Mulvaney, as the acting Chief of Staff, has been the one saying, Mr. President, you cannot say this. Mr. President, this is what needs to happen. And over time, you know from people who've already left the White House, I just spoke to a former senior administration official that said when you're the guy telling the president the truth, he gets angrier and angrier and angrier, and then he shows you the door.
That's it for now. There's more at 3.
Newstalk weather.
Thanks to the AA. Great value annual travel insurance that covers you even before you go.
Cloudy today with some rain around. Some of it will be heavy in places. Highest temperatures 10 to 11 degrees. And now you're up to date on Newstalk.
Welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday on Newstalk with John Duggan. Our Saturday panel special guest, one person, the 2-time champion hurdle and Cheltenham Gold Cup winner, Conor O'Dwyer, Wexford jockey. So we've spoken about the Gold Cup, Conor. The champion hurdle, if we're looking for a horse that jumps and stays to win a Gold Cup, we're looking for a horse that has a bit of speed to win champion hurdles over 2 miles.
Yeah, a different sort of animal. But in saying that, 2 miles around Cheltenham, the pace they go on the champion hurdle, you nearly need, I won't say 2.5 mile, but you need a horse that stays very, very well. Speed isn't everything around Cheltenham. As I say, you have to get up that hill. It's like 2.25 miles anywhere else, really.
In 2004, you rode Hard Eustace at 33 to 1 to win the champion hurdle. The story laced with sadness and tragedy.
Yeah, very emotional day. His original jockey, Kieran Kelly, lost his life in Kilbeggan, and he'd won on the Sun Lions hurdle on the year before. And again, as we spoke earlier about being in the right place at the right time, I just happened to get the ride on him, and again, in the twilight of my career, to come across a horse like him was amazing.
I'm the same age as Kieran, and I remember it was my second Cheltenham as a reporter interviewing him after the Sun Lions win, and he was quite a shy gentleman, and it was his first ever winner at Cheltenham, and it was such a great thing for him. And then he rode Leinster to win the race at Aintree, and then in August he's very tragically killed in Kilbeggan, and our thoughts are with him still. That must leave a huge gap in a weight room.
It does. As you said, he was a quiet, shy sort of a fella, and yet he had a great sense of humour, and was a lively character in the weigh room. outside a lot quieter, but as you said, you know, when something like that happens, it hits home, you know, how dangerous a sport it really is. You're going about your business one day and then all of a sudden tragedy strikes, and as I said, it leaves a big hole.
JT McNamara had a terrible fall and he's no longer with us as well. Was it in your mind a lot when you're going out to ride that this is dangerous what we're doing here?
Not really, no. And even though those tragedies happen, if you start thinking about that sort of thing, or you know that could happen, you know, it plays on your mind a bit if you let it get into you. So no, you have to just go out and treat every race as it is, and you know, you enjoy the sport. But as I said, if you start thinking about it, it's not a good way to go out.
Do you know the moment you fall? Do you know?
Certain times you do. And funny enough, it's often a simple fall can, you know, be worse than a bad fall. It's horses coming behind you. There's a lot of factors to take in. As I said, you can see a jockey getting an easy fall and you think, God, that's not a bad one. But, you know, you can do a vertebrae or anything just as easy with a simple fall, or a horse just coming along and kicking you or standing on you. So it's, you know, yeah, it's something you just get on with, and you know, you don't think about it.
Yeah, you probably can't.
You can't, no.
It was very tough. I remember that poor Kieran. Desi Hughes, he's once again has passed away. He'd done it all before with Monksfield in the 70s, and I remember like Desi speaking about a champion hurdle horse. They have to jump, and he put blinkers on Hardy Eustace, and that really galvanised the horse. Yeah,
jumping in that type of race is you know, if you lose a length at a hurdle, you've got to make up. That's 2 lengths. If you do that at 4 or 5 hurdles, that's 8 or 10 lengths you've lost. Hardy Eustace was he was definitely the fastest hurdler I've ever ridden. How he got from one side to the other, I actually don't know. I just sat there, gave him a loose rein, and just let him do it. There was no...
Is that a thrill?
Yeah, definitely, because you're going down to each hurdle and you're so full of confidence that, you know, no matter what, right or wrong, bad stride, good stride, he's just going to get to the far side so quick. As long as you don't interfere with him, leave him alone. It was amazing, and it's. I'm not saying it's what made him a champion hurdler, but it definitely was one of his attributes.
So in 2004, Rooster Booster is the hottest of favourites. Won the race easily the year before for Richard Johnson and Philip Hobbs. But you went out in front and he got him up the hill.
Yeah, we had a bit of a plan that with the way he jumped and the way he stayed, we thought we'd put it up to him and you know, to grab it by the scruff of the neck, so to speak. You know, going to the Cheltenham on the Tuesday, I thought if he was placed, I thought for him to be placed would be a fantastic run, and that's really was, you know, what I expected. Desi had other thoughts. He really fancied him to win. He had taken him out of the Coral Cup, which I thought was, you know, there's a winner gone.
You're crazy, Desi.
Exactly. And I just thought, you know, if this horse is placed, it'll be a cracking run. So I suppose I rode him really not thinking early on that we're going to win. Now halfway around then, you know, he travelled so well, jumped so well that I thought, yeah, look, we've a big shout here.
Did you keep a bit in the tank?
Yeah, he was. Mouse Morris walked the track with me, I'd say 15 years ago or more. More actually probably. And he always said to me that there's a little rise up the hill before you run down the hill before the third last. And he said to me, anytime you're riding one of my horses, do not make any ground here, give them a breather. And it was probably one of the best bits of advice I ever got.
Did you do it that day?
Yeah, and I always did it. It was it's only for maybe 200 yards, but it's a very steep bit of ground for that couple of 100 yards, and you can win and lose races there.
The horse was owned by a guy called Larry Byrne in Carlow, if I recall. Yeah. I think it was after some landowner or something, was it? Or?
It was. There was an area, Hardy Duggan, I think, was an area or a house. It's named after an area or, as you said, a farm land. And I suppose Hardy, it was a great name as it turned out, because that's exactly what he was. He was just a very hardy individual.
Well, a year later, you went back to try and win it for the second year in a row, and this happened.
As they jump the second last hill, Hardy Eustace from Bravinka now laying down the big challenge on the outside as they round the final turn. Archibald under a very confident, quiet ride in third place is bearing down on them. They're chased by Conor O'Dwyer and Max Joy with Rooster Booster out wide. Here comes the final flight. Hardy Eustace rises just ahead, but Archibald is cruising up on the bridle. Bravinka is wider out, then a Conor O'Dwyer up the hill. Three in a line here. Archibald hasn't been asked a question yet. In the centre, under a nice cool Carberry. Hardy Eustace still galloping. Hardy Eustace pulling it out from Archibald. Hardy Eustace defends his title.
I love that. I just love that. That is great.
I'd say
that's the greatest champion hurdle I've ever seen.
I was just going to say it's probably one of the greatest races in Cheltenham.
Ever.
Ever. I know to be involved in it was something else, but without that, just to watch it, it's just, it still gets the hair standing on the back of my neck.
Well, you were riding the goddamn thing.
It was amazing. Like, we went to the last, and like Paul is sitting there absolutely motionless as he did.
Can you see him?
I could see him coming. When we were halfway up the hill, like, Hardy Eustace was an unbelievable horse. Once you felt his head actually getting low, you knew, there was, unless something went by him very quickly, nothing was going to go by him. His will to win was unbelievable. I was actually more afraid of Bravinka coming on the outside, having beaten me in the Supreme Novices. I knew how well he stayed and how again, resilient he was. You could see Archibald's head actually even lifting, rising up, and I was so confident halfway up that he wasn't going to go by me.
What happened immediately after that?
That was a bit of a blur, all right. I think Paul was in shock. I think I was in shock that we'd gotten 2 champion hurdles, and again, your first thoughts are with Kieran.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of mixed emotions. And just as you said, probably one of the most memorable races in Cheltenham ever ran.
Bravinka, who won the following year.
Yeah.
Max Joy, an excellent horse. Accordion Etoile, back in front. Essex, Rooster Booster. It was a golden race.
It was. You'd often hear people saying, such a race wasn't a great race or wasn't a great era or whatever. That was one of, as you said, Bravinka came back to win a champion hurdle. Max Joy won an Irish champion hurdle. Archibald was, okay, he was himself, but he was, he'd won the Fighting Fifth. He won a Christmas hurdle. It was a fantastic era of champion hurdlers.
Is anything said when you're in the race or up the hill? Are you shouting at any other jockey, or is there are you just too concentrated on what you're doing?
Yeah, in the likes of Cheltenham, in those top class races when it's so tight, no, you're just so focused, and the only thing you're shouting at is your horse to give you everything you can.
When you watch the tape back, were you surprised how close and how well Archibald had run? If you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, actually, in the race, even though I knew he was there, I probably didn't think he was travelling as well as he actually was. Looking back on it now, if you stop it halfway up the hill, you think it's only a matter of when he wants to go. But as we spoke earlier on about champion hurdlers with speed, Archibald had all the speed in the world. He loved a flat track. He loved a Leopardstown, Newcastle, Kempton. The hill just, it just wasn't for him. I think he got beat in a county hurdle with 10-4 a couple of years previous. So, when you see horses, as I say, that handled the place, it wasn't for him.
And he won 3 times in a row at Cheltenham, Hardy Eustace. It just shows that it's all about getting them right on the day. Is that 6 months, 12 months in the making? How much does a trainer leave off a horse? Is a horse maybe 80%? Like, how do you get a horse to 100%? Is that difficult?
It is. Again, it depends on the horse. It depends on the trainer. Again, going back to Mouse Morris, he always, he'd never run a horse after January. Even late January, he didn't like doing it. Middle of January was his last run, really, with any horse going to Cheltenham. He believes to have them good and fresh. Other trainers love to have a run middle of February. But early season, a lot of horses would be pretty well wound up, and then maybe midway through the season be let down again and to build back up for Cheltenham. A year is a long time to try and sort of keep a horse, wound up. So you do have to kind of let them up and down a bit.
Did you feel when you were ridden 2 winners of the Gold Cup and Champion Hurdle, I've realised my dream here?
Definitely. I suppose having even the first Gold Cup when I'd ridden that, I could never see me winning another one. Or Champion Hurdles. I just thought, that's you've had your lot. You've gotten a Gold Cup. That's what jockeys dream of. And when I got that, I thought, wow, you're here. You that's your lot really. And as I said, to come across those other horses, as I say, later in life was amazing.
This year's Champion Hurdle, wide open, I would say. Poor Espoir d'Alan didn't make it, lost his life. We've got Epatante, we've got Pentland Hills, Cur Sublime, maybe Sharjah for Willie Mullins. How do you assess?
Very, very open. I suppose the favourite Epatante has done nothing wrong. I'm just not sure how strong the form is. Pentland Hills then, second or third favourite, he doesn't seem to finish out his races. Maybe the better ground will help him. You could really pick sort of holes in them all, but yet there's no horse there that you could really say, yes, he's the one. Again, I think Cur Sublime, I think, again, if I'm having a bet for a bit of value, I think he's an each way bet.
I agree with you.
Good. As I said, it's there's no previous winner. The form is very.
It's screaming outsider, isn't it? To me,
it really is. Yeah. Anything could, anything could come and win. Really, I'm not sure what Willie's plan is with Benny Didu.
I think she's probably going for the mares against Honeysuckle. Honeysuckle confirmed for the mares.
Confirmed for the mares. Yeah, I think again for her, she was fantastic in Leopardstown. But again, as we spoke about, Hardy Eustace jumping,
at pace,
and she's never ran there before. Things happen so much quicker. Hurdles come up on funny angles and different things. So I think that's the right call for her.
If we're looking at an outsider possibly to win the Champion Hurdle, I don't think we can say the same about the Champion Chase with 3 horses at the top there, Altior, Defi de Soy and Chacun Pour Soi.
Yeah, again, Altior coming back, he was fabulous in Newbury. I thought he was beaten, and then he just finds another gear. He'll be hard to beat, I think. But again, I really love Willie's horse, Chacun Pour Soi. I think he's better. Like his form is very, very good, obviously. But I think in a true run race, proper gallop, it'll bring out the best in him. And I think he might be just a horse up and coming to do him.
What about our novice hurdlers? Do you like Envo Allen, Abracadabras? We have Monkfish. We have the Big Getaway. All these types of horses. Any of them that you like?
Love Envo Allen. He's an absolute model of a horse.
Is he a banker?
He should be. I think. I heard a comment the other day that he was, wound up early in the season and that, it's a long way through. But he's had a nice break. I think he'll go there a fresh horse. To me, for him, the size that he is, to have won the bumper last year was an amazing feat. And I think he'll be in every double, treble that's going. And I think he's a banker.
Another novice chasers as well, Notebook, Manila, Indo. There'd be horses from Henry de Bramhead stable that you'd expect to go well.
Yeah, I love Notebook. His performance in Leopardstown was faultless. He jumped super, and for a big horse, he got in tight to a couple of fences. I think at 5-2, he's actually the bet of the week.
Because of his jumping?
Because of his jumping, the way he travels, he'll get out, he'll keep it simple, he stays well. I can't see a negative in him. He's beaten the Joseph's horse, Fakir Dudari's, yes. And he gave him £7 because of Fakir Dudari's £4-year-old allowance in Leopardstown, but he doesn't get that now in Cheltenham. So I think Notebook is a great bet.
Now, the Stairs Hurdle, Paisley Park, as a horse reminds me a bit of Big Books, gets behind the bridle and then comes back with another turbo boost to win. Won it well last year. Can you see history repeating itself?
Definitely. More so than anything, I can't see anything to take him on. The only one I thought might give him a race or have a chance of turning him over would have been Benny Didu. the way she won the Galmoy hurdle in Gorn. But as you said, she looks like she's going for the mare's race, so I know I can't see anything to beat him. As you say, he does get behind it a bit, but you know, when he gets going, no, there's nothing to touch him.
The Ryanair, I like a Plutar. Would you agree, or anything else that you like?
No. You have to like him. Henry's, again, will have them absolutely spot on. He probably did the right thing taking him out of Leopardstown. He was minding him. He'll go there, fresh horse. Absolutely fabulous jockey on board in Rachel. And, he looks the one for that.
Rachel Blackmore is just brilliant, isn't she?
Unbelievable lady. She really, really is. Her commitment, her work ethic, everything is just, she's 110% there the whole time. She gives every horse every chance to jump, to finish out races. She's always in the right place. She keeps it simple. And she's a very canny knack of having horses running for her. She's very light. She mightn't be as strong, powerfully as, what way would I put it, a heavier person, but she just has the horses in a rhythm, and as I said, they really run for her. She's fantastic.
Do you think the bumper is appreciated to lose, or is it a tricky one for you to?
It's a tricky one. I love the horse, but he strikes me as definitely way more of a chaser in time. He's a fantastic, big, good-looking horse. Just not sure the hustle and bustle, the coming down the hill, just might suit. Now, again, probably hard to pick one to beat him, but he's just not a horse if I was a punter that I'd be waiting for or wading into.
Anything you like for the handicaps?
Willie's horse of JP's in the Coral what is it?
Jadinil, is it?
Jadinil, yes. I think he's a very, very nice horse. Again, good price, 10-1. Travels well. Took him a while to get going the last day, but when he did, he looked differently. He was a grade A handicap in Fairy House, and I think, again, the hill will suit him. He'll stay well. He's one I'd like to be on.
That's great, Conor. 14 winners last year. I get the sense from our discussion here that we're going to do well again this year.
Well, look, looking at the betting, we're very strong in a lot of races, especially the handicaps as well. Cross-country race, Tiger Roll.
Do you think you'll win the Grand National?
Oh, wow. Now you have me. Huge ask, obviously. And, something, I honestly don't think the weight will beat him.
Right.
Being honest, I think just going back there 3 times is very hard, obviously, to do. But look, he's done it twice, and he's done it so easily twice. I'd hate to be backing against him.
Interesting stuff. What was I don't know to put you on the spot here, Conor, what was the maddest moment or the craziest moment or the funniest moment of the 30 years you've been to Cheltenham?
Wow. Listen, I suppose, as we spoke earlier, I think coming in on Imperial Call that year was, as I say, I can't describe it. It was absolutely,
Bedlam.
Bedlam was a crazy, crazy moment, and as I said, it was just...
Were people losing their run themselves?
They were. They really were. They were. How actually nobody got hurt, even, walking up behind the horse. He was just... You couldn't move. And how he didn't kick out, or, as I said, it was just... It was a crazy moment.
Because you rode the next day.
Yes, yeah.
Why?
Why? That was it. You just have to keep going, and you're on a high, and you've gotten such a buzz out of it. You're full of confidence. It's great to get going the next day.
Any advice to any person going to Cheltenham for the first time this week? Have a lot of stamina, obviously.
Have a lot of stamina, a lot of cash, and don't rush in. It's a long week.
Well, Conor O'Dwyer, an absolute gentleman, for speaking to Off the Ball Saturday, and I wish you every success with your training career, and thanks for all the memories.
Not at all, John. Pleasure. Thank you.
53106 for your texts and your tips for Cheltenham over the next few days. Back after this.
Off the Ball on News Talk. Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.
On the latest episode of Tech Talk, I'll meet the Irish company deploying Internet of Things technology to help fight flooding. Plus, Ronan O'Murhla will take me on a tour of IADT in Dunleary to show how best-in-class technology is being used to teach their students.
Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.